starts, as these stories so often do, with a comeback. A homecoming. Emma Raducanu, walking back onto the lawns of Queen's Club for the second summer in a row, cameras trained on every step, a nation holding its breath the way it always does when she picks up a racket on home soil. Nobody watching that Tuesday afternoon could have known they were witnessing the opening scene of a story that would end not in triumph, but in silence. She began well, ruthlessly well. Anna Blinkova stood across the net and lasted barely an hour, beaten 6-love, 6-3, the kind of scoreline that makes commentators sit up and wonder if this is finally the tournament where everything clicks back into place. The crowd roared. The headlines wrote themselves. And then the sky opened. Rain swallowed the schedule whole. Days bled together. Matches were pushed, postponed, reshuffled, and Raducanu was left waiting, her rhythm broken before it had even properly begun. It wasn't until Friday, 3 long days later, that she stepped back onto the court to face Rusedski in the round of 16. She won it in 2 sets. She survived, but survival, in this sport, always comes at a cost, and the bill was about to arrive. Because the rain delays had done more than disrupt a schedule. They had compressed an entire tournament into an impossibly small window. And on Saturday, Emma Raducanu was asked to do what so few players are ever asked to do: play twice in one day. Picture it. Morning turns to afternoon, and she's back out there against Emma Raducanu, fighting for a place in the final. And somewhere in the middle of that battle, her foot slips, just for a second, a single misstep on a surface that offers no forgiveness. A jolt through the thigh. The kind of moment that, in an instant, changes the entire trajectory of a tournament, of a season, and nobody watching yet knows it. She doesn't stop. She doesn't retire. She grits through it, wins the match, and with barely time to breathe, walks straight back out to face Iva Jovic in the very same day. 2 matches, 1 body, 0 recovery, and somehow, against everything her legs must have been screaming at her, she wins that 1-2. She's through to the final. The crowd is delirious. It looks, for a moment, like the fairy tale is writing itself. But watch closely and you can see it. The injury from that slip hasn't gone anywhere. It's still there, quietly working against her, and it shows in her movement the very next day in the final against Donna Vekic. The Emma Raducanu who dismantled Blinkova in the first round is nowhere to be found. In her place is a player fighting her own body as much as her opponent, and it isn't enough. 6-love, 6-7. A brutal, lopsided defeat that tells its own story before a single word of analysis is spoken. And then nothing. Raducanu doesn't show up in Nottingham. She doesn't show up in Eastbourne. The whispers begin. Is it the thigh? Is it something worse? For days, the tennis world assumes it knows the answer. And then just before Wimbledon, the tournament, the stage, the one moment every British player dreams about, she's photographed in public wearing a protective boot. Not on her thigh, on her ankle. The truth, when it finally comes, is worse than anyone imagined. A stress fracture. Not a tweak, not a strain. A fracture, the kind of injury that doesn't happen in a single moment, but builds silently, invisibly, match after match, step after step, until the bones simply cannot take any more. Raducanu withdraws from Wimbledon. Her home Grand Slam. Gone before it even begins. So, how does a body break like this? How does a 23-year-old, one of the most talented players of her generation, end up sidelined by an injury that seemed to come from nowhere? Greg Rusedski, the man who once stood across the net from the very best in the world, believes the answer isn't really about bad luck at all. Speaking on his podcast, Off Court with Greg, Rusedski laid it out in blunt, uncomfortable terms. The problem, he said, wasn't the slip. It wasn't a freak accident on a wet court. It was everything that led up to it. Raducanu's body, he argued, simply wasn't trained, wasn't conditioned to withstand the physical demand of back-to-back matches, of playing twice in a single day, of absorbing that kind of load without warning and without adequate preparation. You can say it's bad luck, Rusedski said, but you have to be prepared sometimes to play 2 matches in a day, and maybe back-to-back. 2 matches. It's a simple sentence, but it lands like a verdict, because If he's right, then Queen's Club wasn't the cause of the injury. It was only the moment the cracks, the fracture, quite literally finally broke through to the surface. And Rusedski didn't stop there. He widened the lens, forcing a much bigger, much harder question into the conversation. Why does this keep happening? Why is it that so many British players, one after another, seem to break down under the very pressure the sport demands of them? You've got to have a look at the sports science behind it, he said, because something is not right when we have this many of them injured all the time. It's no longer just about one player, one ankle, one missed Wimbledon. It's a pattern. And patterns, unlike accidents, demand explanations. For Rusedski, the answer circles back to something almost old-fashioned in its simplicity: consistency. Not talent, not toughness, not even luck. Consistency in training, in conditioning, in making sure a player's body is quietly, relentlessly built to handle the exact scenario that undid Raducanu at Queen's Club. Because on the biggest stages, that scenario isn't rare. It's inevitable. Sooner or later, every top player will be asked to play through fatigue, through compressed schedules, through 2 matches in a single unforgiving day. The only question is whether their body is ready when that day arrives. Raducanu's wasn't. And now, as the tennis calendar rolls forward, her name remains on the entry list for Washington, the tournament beginning on the 27th of July. But the boot, the fracture, the silence since Queen's Club all point toward the same quiet, sobering truth. It looks unlikely she'll be there. Wimbledon slipped away in an instant, and somewhere in the